All right, so I want to start this out by being a little bit humble because when I make videos on this device, there's a 10-minute timer on it, and so sometimes I'm watching the timer a lot as I'm conveying the ideas, and sometimes I move quickly to meet the video, but I actually should have moved that quickly with the last one because I was talking about something a little bit heavy, like I was talking about both finance, but also like finance within a church, like tithes and offerings, and that's actually not a light matter because people give their last, and people have real faith about like what they would contribute to a church. And sometimes you go to a church when you have no other recourse. That happened to me once before. I was on hard times as a young person because I had taken on too many courses in college at once, trying to imitate one of my cousins who could handle a heavy course load. I actually didn't have the same. She grew up like in private schools, and she had a different background around education, so she may have known what she was doing by taking on a heavier course load. She was younger than me, but she got through school faster than me, and I'm actually still in school. But she I was trying to imitate her once in the past by taking on a heavy course load like what she would do, and I got myself into a lot of trouble. I was also an RA on a campus, like that's like a person in a dorm room that's like a manager of an entire floor of a dorm, of a college dorm, like while also taking a very heavy course load. So I didn't know what the hell I was doing something like that, and I got myself into some financial difficulty like that. And then when I was coming out with that, one time I was at my wit's end, so I went to a church, this actual church that I referenced in the previous video. And again, it's the testimony in the church that's as vital as the as like what's taught in the scripture, and the reproof in the preaching in the sermons, is that when you hear testimony, it's like, okay, so this is what the scripture talks about, and this is how I understand it and put it into life, and this is what has happened for me by doing this. So you're actually getting like a demonstration of faith and learning of scripture and like in conduct. And so you can actually learn some real lessons in there. So this woman was saying that she understands that this is a woman I referenced in another video that had been, she was gifted and talented around mathematics and engineering from a young age, and that she was saying that it's understood in certain religious settings that the callings and the blessings and the favor of what's awesome are not like they're not how can I say it, like they are they're not falsifiable, and sometimes they don't leave us even when we're messing up. It's not to say that we can't disabuse ourselves of our own gifts and strong suits if we're that egregious, where she was nearly that egregious, but something about them is really who we are, and sometimes our gifts and callings can prevail past our own poor judgment and recklessness. So case in point is that this, but she says it's deeper than that, because she was a case in point because she was going through engineering school, making high marks and blowing the competition out of the water while supporting a drug habit, like stuff like crack cocaine and heroin, but I think more so actual crack cocaine, like freebasing crack cocaine, while maintaining high marks in the engineering program, then functioning as an engineer and making high income and professional accolades while supporting a habit no less than freebasing, is what this woman did. And that's an example of how some of our gifts and callings are with us, even as it would appear that they shouldn't be. But what she was saying is that she understands, but yet a person will, you play around long enough and you can come on to rock bottom anyhow. And that's according to the author Mickey Royal. That's actually what they experience, the fun of things like drugs and alcohol and different things that can be maybe appreciated as fast, is that the sensation is that you're losing control, and that's what's enjoyable. But you are in fact losing control, and so if you lose control of something because like if you imagine like a bicycle, it has to keep a certain momentum and balance to stay up on two wheels. But that's actually true of our life and actually our existence as humans. We need a certain amount of momentum, productivity, and balance to stay up on 2 feet. So you play with that long enough, you lose control long enough, and you find yourself on the ground, time out, bottom on the ground at a certain point. How try as you may. That's my appreciation. And that was hers also. But something did actually get her to rock bottom, as long as she was able to entertain that, like to play it like that, to play both sides like that. But then what she was saying is that she understands is that the blessings in this life are actually promises to us. Some of those blessings would be our own abilities, like what she had, like with the math, but in the engineering and science. But some of them are also our circumstances that would make us aware of certain opportunities or able to access what is interesting to us or what we're passionate about that is our strong suit. But it had still been a promise in that a lot of the things that conspired and antagonized to form and mitigate the appearance of that opportunity or that capacity of ours, it was in play in that motion coming into our manifestation and iteration and experience of ourself and others' experience of us as being a person and existing. These different influences and factors and also detriments and challenges conspired and existed coming into and prior to our appearance at birth, and then sustained through our experience of life and maybe go beyond. And so she understands that as a promise. But it's not revocable. But from her understanding is that if you fall on hard times, help is, so you call on Calvary. I recently called on Calvary, what would be the equivalent of Calvary, because I was in a lot of danger, and that shit didn't come. I called my brother afterwards, and that shit did come in the form of my brother helped me in a couple minutes. But what you think of it, and so again, my brother was my brother before I got in that situation, and who he is, what he would be to me and to life, and for me to have access to calling him was at play before my appearance on earth. I was born before him, but the factors that would lead into him being born after me, but still my brother, that was actually at play before I was born, because my parents would have to be who they were and who they were getting ready to be prior to, while I was being born, and after I was being born. That would amount to my brother, but that was still prior to my brother and prior to me. And then when I get in my ass in hot water, some near 4 decades later after being born, and I call my younger brother close to about 3 decades after he had been born, he was able to help me as the Calvary could not help me. And so that's an example of like the promises and the blessings and actually the lifelines and opportunities to continue to live and exist are prior to whatever stupid mess we get into being reckless or irresponsible. But we're not getting help from without. So you walk up for a loan or something like that. They don't want to know. Yeah. So this is where you're at right now. Yeah, you look like this, and you say you're about this, and you can do this and that, and you may do this and that if we extend you like a line of credit, or we believe in your ass. But what had you been before you got here? What's your work history? And then so you would have had to have the circumstances that would allow you to have the work history, some of your own efforts, but some of the contributions of others, no less than the testimony of these different people, like in church that I had as a young person, that gave me the standing to not completely F myself over very young, coming out the boat onto Normandy of life as a 18-year-old. They're looking backwards to what they're going to give you now to get over something. They're looking back to what were the promises made to you, and how did you act around those promises that were made to you before we help you with something right now, is what someone wants to know. But no one, when we need help, it's not coming. Maybe you could say someone kind may cross your path. Someone may say, man, you're a beautiful man. I love human beings. You're a beautiful person. Let me give you this to help you. That's happened to me recently when I actually wasn't asking for help, but I might have looked like I needed help or not known that I needed help. And I had like a guitar, which is a mercy and a traveling mercy and a blessing, I think. And someone blessed me like that. But whatever training and seasoning they would have in life that would have them have a moral compass and a heart and an inclination to help people was at play before they met me. So you could say again, that whatever blessings were, whatever they were afforded of lessons and learning in life and opportunity, was actually a promise to me, because it came roundabout to me, but it had actually been invoked in that play before they got around to helping me. But generally speaking, nothing is coming to us to help us from without that hadn't already been at play. And that's what she helped me understand, so that we more so work with what we already got to get out of something difficult. According to the book, to the author Arthur Avalon, when a person falls on the ground, they must raise themselves up by means of that same ground. Or so when we fall to a ground of our own, we must raise ourselves by means of our own means. Even though we're on hard ground, we still yet may have the means to get off of that ground if we work with the actual ground that we're upon and what's at play and promised to us to that point. And that's what I had learned in church at testimony. But I wanted to say that people come into that circumstance and they still give what they have, like in tithes, and they still get help there. So there's nothing light about tithes and offerings. I wanted to say that with like